Okay, so welcome to this webinar. For those people that don't know me, my name's Barry, and for me, I was firstly introduced to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin round about 2014 stroke maybe 15, and it wasn't just Bitcoin I was introduced to at the time. It was various different cryptocurrencies as well. And I suppose, like most people, you know, certainly maybe on the call or certainly people who just want to start to learn or get involved in the Bitcoin, I've actually learned the hard way, so to speak, because, you know, I've had some decent good times with cryptocurrency, but I've also had some really bad times with cryptocurrency. And, you know, I've invested in certain platforms in different currencies where, you know, myself, and it's only hands up, I can only blame myself because, you know, I was a little bit naive. I didn't have any leadership to follow. I didn't have any mentoring. I certainly, you know, I do call myself slightly intelligent in, you know, in that aspect and streetwise, so to speak, but I dived straight into it. I didn't do due diligence, and these certain platforms that I was plowing and lots of money as well into it just all of a sudden just disappeared. And I suppose with people on the call and, you know, other prospects and teams, I don't really want people to make that same mistake, because it's not very nice. And I'm sure, as I said, a lot of people have been in that situation before, and it quite hurts. I lost total confidence, I suppose, in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin for quite a while. And I actually got a call from Joby, who I had known through a few years, and since then, you know, Joby has become my mentor. But not only that, it's just, you know, a good personal friend of mine as well. And I suppose this is what the Bitcoin space brings as well. It's not just, you know, sharing best practice and helping each other. It brings friendship, but from across the world as well. And I'm excited that we've got somebody from the other side of the, you know, the water from Denmark, who's going to come on a bit later on, who I'll introduce. And, you know, this is the great way that it's pulling people together. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen, and then I'm just going to go and with a few slides. And if you can see my screen, and I've just disappeared there for some reason, just bear with me, please, guys. I am co-host on there because I need to share. 2 seconds. I've lost my screen. Just give me the thumbs up once you can see my screen, guys, please. Right, brilliant. Okay, so I just want to share that. And, you know, what I want to do, as I said, we want to try and give, you know, some education to those people that's maybe interested and wanting to know more and become involved in Bitcoin. And certainly, you know, like I said, when I was contacted by Joby and I was introduced to a private team called the Crypto Group, and since there, I've never really looked back. And believe it or not, I've only been part of this amazing group since round about January this year. But I've learned so much, and, you know, the biggest thing is to do your own, you know, education. It's very important, and it's vital. You've got to do your own education. So with that said, you know, so where did Bitcoin, you know, begin? Well, it all began back in 2008, where there was a white paper that was produced. And that white paper was called a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, as you can see there on the presentation. And this white paper can actually be found on the internet. And if you go to www.bitcoin.org/bitcoin.pdf, I think the web address is, you will be able to read the white paper at your own leisure. Now, this white paper was actually created by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto to this day still remains anonymous, Nobody knows whether it's a man, woman, or even a group of people. And when you hear some of the stories about the Bitcoin, then you'll understand maybe why Satoshi Nakamoto has still remained anonymous. And back in 2009, after the white paper was produced, then became the birth of Bitcoin. Now, a lot of people were saying back then that this white paper could be the biggest thing since the internet. And of course, came the birth of Bitcoin, and it was released as an open source software. Now, for me, Bitcoin can be either become a bit techy or it can become simple. I like simple, so I'm just going to try and keep it as simple as possible. And for those people that want to get into the technical side of it and the science side and the computer side, that's great. Go where, we've got people that can help you and guide you on that. But for Bitcoin, it's more than just money. It's actually a global digital transaction system available for everybody. Now, I don't think people just quite realize how powerful that means, digital transaction system, because the key word in there is actual global, because it's one system that is for everybody across the whole of the globe. It's unlike your banks where we've got different types of banks, where they're tied up to different people and different governments. This is one transaction system available to everybody. But it's not just a transaction system. What we have here is we've got like a sort of 3-in-1 sort of speak, because we have the cash. So just like your banks, we have a payment system. So it's just like your PayPals, that is the payment system. But also what we've got with this digital transaction system is we have the technology. Now the technology is part of the whole puzzle, so to speak, that will bring Bitcoin into circulation. And we're going to talk a little bit about that a bit later on. And Sebastian's going to talk about how you can actually become involved in the Bitcoin. But a 3-in-1 system available across the whole of the globe, I mean, how cool is that? And unlike other banking systems, you don't need no credit checks, there's no political agenda, and it's no sex, race, anything like that. And it's totally decentralized, so it's not run by any government, and it's run on a peer-to-peer network, which that means is it's just you and I can make transfers, and all you simply need to do is just download a simple app on your Android or your iPhone from your app store, and then you're good to go within a few clicks of a button. And it's the first ever alternative to established banking system, which we've just talked there. It's a 3-in-1, but it's the first alternative banking to the banking system. Now, we do have a limited supply with Bitcoin, and like with most assets, things such as gold, we all know and understand that gold also has a limited supply, but nobody actually knows what that limited supply is. With Bitcoin, we actually do. And this is where the clever part of the science has been brought, because it's been set to produce only ever 21 million Bitcoins to become in circulation. And I want to talk a little bit more about that a bit later on, because there's historical parts that happen to Bitcoin every 4 years. But this is great because we can actually calculate future Bitcoins because of the demand and supply. And like I said, I'll touch on that a bit later on. And this is why, because of the above, the main focus of the financial institutes, the biggest hedge funds, governments, and all combined with the most influential people in the world to start to take note and become involved in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's actually been the best performing asset in the past 10 years. And I just read an interesting article the other day where, again, in this year, it's outshining gold, silver, all of your funds, etc. So it has been the best performing asset over the last 10 years. Now, if I just take you over to the right-hand side, and I'm just going to move my camera out the road, and excuse me, what you'll see is a form of graph there, and you'll see a graph bar with two big white boxes with the letters and the wordings 10x above it. Now, a lot of people would look at that and think, don't have a clue what that means. Well, I'm just going to break it down as simple as I possibly can. Over the left-hand side, you've got the prices of Bitcoin, and it's starting from 2,500 all the way to 22.5. And then along the bottom, you've got the years. So the year Bitcoin was formed in 2009, all the way up to 2020, which is the next halving, which we're going to cover in a bit later on. Now, the two X's, what's that indicating, and what that means is just before every halving, Bitcoin in certain years, the year before the halving, has actually gone up its price and value 10 times within that year. So if we have a look at the first 10x, which was back in 2013 to 2014, you'll see that there's a little spike there just at the beginning of 2014. Now this was before the first halving, and Bitcoin actually went 10 times its price because it went from $100 and it shot up to $1,100 to $1,200. So it's gone up its price in tenfold. Now, if you follow the graph along, and if you go to 2017-18, that's when we had the crazy period with Bitcoin. So most of you will probably remember where there was a big media hype and Bitcoin just rocketed through the roof. And from the year before then, before the halving, it actually went its price from 800 all the way up to 1,800, and it did surpass that up to the region of about 20,000 euros, something in the region of that, give or take. But it actually went up again, its value in 10 times in that year. Now, if you have a look at the graph, you'll think that graph is crazy, but it's exactly the same, because Bitcoin, it's only gone up in its value 10 times. Even though the spikes are dead small, the Bitcoin has just gone up its value in 10 times. Now, when we talk about the halving and how you can become involved in that, when Sebastian jumps on, you'll get a feeling of just how high Bitcoin potentially could go into the next halving. And going on. So why should we pay attention to Bitcoin? And is it too late to get involved with Bitcoin? Well, according to the Cambridge University study, there's approximately 2.9 to 5.8 million active users in the world today using Bitcoin. Now, this study was actually carried out over a year ago, so I would suggest those figures may be just slightly higher. But when this study was carried out, 2.9 to 5.8 million active users. What that means is people like you and I are actively using Bitcoin on our digital phones, on our computers, on our external hard drives, etc., transferring Bitcoin to and from, buying and selling, etc. So, you know, that's quite a small proportion of users when I come on to some of the populations a bit later on. But there was actually, in 2018, 3.2 trillion transactions in Bitcoin. 3.2 trillion. Now that is a large number of transactions, and we'll show you how the transactions works when Sebastian comes on, and he's going to show you the actual blockchain itself, where the transactions are, because this is fully transparent, and you know, anybody can see that. So, you know, can you be an early adopter, and can you be part of this huge potential growth in Bitcoin? Well, absolutely, yes, you can. And if we look at it this way, we talked about this Cambridge University study. Now, there was a study carried out by Forbes not so long ago, where it reported that there was 1.7 billion people in the world do not have access to banking. Now, with the world population approximately 8 billion at this moment in time, 1.7 billion people do not have access to banking. Now, yes, okay, a lot of these people are from third world countries, such as Africa, parts of China, Asia, etc. But for me, I think that's going up, because the way I'm looking at it as well, certainly within the UK, I don't know what it's like for the rest of the people around Europe and the rest around the world, but I'm finding poverty really bad in the UK. And, you know, I'm seeing more people who's homeless. I'm seeing more and more food banks. I'm seeing more and more families who can't, you know, who haven't got the financial backing. And a lot of this is caused through financial institutes of the bankings, etc., etc. The blacklisted. Bitcoin can be the solution to help poverty, to help these people. And that's my personal opinion. And I feel quite strong about that because I do really feel it's quite sad. It's happening under our eyes that the poverty in the 21st century just seems to be getting worse. Bitcoin can actually be the answer to help these people out. Now, bearing that in mind, we mentioned Bitcoin goes on demand and supply. So the more demand that Bitcoin is needed, so the more people that's going to be using Bitcoin, and the supply, so the less supply that's going to happen, you know, Bitcoin is going to start creeping up. Now, we said there's only ever 21 Bitcoins ever going to be produced. Now, to this day, there's approximately 17.5. I'll stand corrected if somebody knows the exact number, but I'm thinking it's in the region of 17.5 million Bitcoins are already in circulation. Now, a lot of people who don't understand or didn't know there was a limited supply of Bitcoin will think, well, if Bitcoin was created in 2009 and we're in the year, 2019, it's only 10-year-old, it's mined, or there's 17.5 million Bitcoins in circulation, it's only going to be another couple of years before that's, 21 million is in circulation. Well, that's totally wrong. Because what happens is, historically, every 4 years, Bitcoin becomes more scarce. And what I mean by that, and this is the clever part where Bitcoin, the scientific, algorithms and mathematical laws have stated, when Bitcoin was first come into circulation in 2009, every 10 minutes, 50 new Bitcoins was released into circulation. So that's every 10 minutes. Anybody, any Carol Vordermans or any mathematicians in there, if you just tell me the exact number, what that would be a day. But every 10 minutes for 4 years, 50 Bitcoin into circulation, 7 days a week. Then what happened 4 years after that? That 50 Bitcoin got halved. So we went to 25. So you can see straight away, Bitcoin is becoming less in supply. It's becoming more scarce. Then 4 years later, it got halved again and it went to 12.5. And that's what we're currently on at the moment. So as we're speaking on this webinar now, every 10 minutes, 12.5 new Bitcoins are becoming into circulation. And we'll show you exactly where those Bitcoins are coming into circulation when we have a look at the blockchain. And what's going to be happening next year is around about the May time next year, it's going to halve again. So we're going to be going on to about 6.3 Bitcoin. So it's even getting less and less. So as you can see, another 4 years down the line, it's halved and so on and so forth. So with that said, the whole 21 million Bitcoins that's going to be coming into circulation is actually going to be in the year 2140. I don't think anybody of us, well, I know nobody, any of us will actually see this ever happen. So because it becomes scarce every 4 years, quickly work it out. We talked about there's less than 1% of the globe that's actually involved in Bitcoin, as we see the 2.9 to 5.8 active users. So Bitcoin getting scarce every 4 years. What's going to start happening when 2% of the globe starts using Bitcoin? 3%, 5%, 10% even. And it's going to happen because more and more and more people are getting involved in Bitcoin. And this is why we're encouraging people to start, introducing people to the Bitcoin. Because with it getting more scarce, what's going to be happening? The price of Bitcoin is just going to go up and up and up. And we're going to have a look at some predictions, what experts are telling us potentially what prices could be. So is it too late to get into the Bitcoin? Absolutely not. And if we look at it this way, think about when technology really was first kicking off, back in the late 80s, early 90s, when the internet formed, and we all had email. When email came out, everybody was, whoa, I'm not touching that. Wouldn't dare send information across the other side of the world by a click of a button. It wouldn't happen. Since then, we all now cannot do without email. Simple. Yeah. Look at the mobile phones. You know, what we have now, we've gone top of the range, Android, Apples. Back in 10 years ago, we were having the Nokia phones where we're all guilty of playing snakes and that. Well, Bitcoin is at the early stages of email, the early stages of the Nokia phone. That's where Bitcoin is at the moment, because it is at the early infancy stages. So yes, the best time now is to get involved in Bitcoin. Now, if we have a look over on the left-hand side, if we have a look at the bubbles. Now, the bubbles, well, I'll take it from the bottom, and if you have a look at the pink one, global debt, $247 trillion. That's the global debt. That's what's being estimated that the whole world is in debt with. Now, if you look at the green one, there is only $95.7 trillion in fluctuation in the world. Now, it doesn't take a mathematician to realize there's a massive chunk of money that is just unaccounted for. Where's this money gone? Can anybody answer for that? No, we can't. We are actually getting robbed in front of our own eyes by the banking system, because somebody at some stage needs to account for this missing money. Now, if you have a look up the top, the purple one, the stock markets, the market cap for that is over 77 trillion. And then you've got gold, which is is it 7 trillion? Can't quite see. I need me glasses on. I think it's 7 trillion. And then we've got Bitcoin right at the very top, with just a little black head, which got a market saying the market cap there of 100 billion, but that's slightly just gone up with the increase of Bitcoin over the past couple of months. But just have a look, guys, at the global debt. Where has all this money gone? We don't have this with Bitcoin. So you can see the huge, huge potential of the wealth that Bitcoin can start generating once more and more users come on board. And the wealthiest and the most influential people are actually involved in Bitcoin. And if you have a look at the three faces on here, and again, please, I encourage you, go out, do your own research, do your own due diligence, you know, because these three names are not just us pulling three names out of a hat and sticking them on a slide. These are actual people who are talking about Bitcoin. Tim Draper, arguably, if not the biggest venture capitalists in the world. Now, Tim Draper was an early investor in things such as Yahoo, Skype, Hotmail, and more recently, Uber. And Tim Draper is actually predicting, as it says there, by the year 2022, Bitcoin could be priced at 250k per coin. 250k per coin. Now, that's only 3 years away. Wencas Casares, board of director of PayPal. Now, you would expect Wencas Casares to know a little bit about finance, being the board of director. He's also a big advocate of the Bitcoin. And he's predicting one Bitcoin is going to be worth $1 million. Again, that's not us just throwing figures on a slide. Please go out, do your research, start following these guys, start following the smart people. And then we have Jack Dorsey, who is the co-founder of Twitter, and he is the CEO of the payment system Square. Now, Jack Dorsey, again, you know, go out, for those people that's on Twitter, go out and follow him, because he makes some real good predicaments and some good reading on the Bitcoin. But in one of his recent statements, he's said the world ultimately will have one single currency. The internet will have one single currency. And he personally believes that will be Bitcoin. And looking at the evidence from the last slide, you know, it's who are we to disagree with these guys? So go out and, you know, just follow these smart people. Now, what I want to do is just go back And just before I hand over, so I just want to recap slightly on here. So, why should we be paying attention, but why should we actually care about Bitcoin? Well, the most influential people in the world are investing in Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's actually debt-free. We talk about, all of the certainly over in the UK, poverty just seems to be getting worse and worse. We've got 1.7 billion people without access to banking. It's debt-free. We've got a definitive supply, so we only know 21 million Bitcoins can ever be in circulation. And it is designed to be inflation-proof. Bitcoin, it is unhackable. And, excuse me, Sebastian will touch on that when he shows you just exactly how the blockchain itself works. And, it is potentially the biggest financial revolution that we may ever see. It's as simple as that. It's not tied up with any banks, and you become your own bank. You are in control of your own finance. You don't have to get permission from banks. You don't have to go and ask any third party, any intermediaries. You are fully 100% transparently in control of your own bank. It is done on peer-to-peer. We talked about the system, sending money from peer-to-peer, and it's an instant transaction. And Bitcoin is becoming more and more scarce every 10 minutes. So them are some of the reasons why we need to pay attention to Bitcoin. So with that said, I hope you're getting a little bit of information and a little bit of an understanding of Bitcoin. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to hand you over to our first very special guest. And this guy, I actually met a few months ago, or last month or 2 months ago, on a big, massive Bitcoin event over in Marbella. And I just think it was an honor and a pleasure to spend time with them. And Sebastian, he took the time out on the last day, and we spent some really good quality time. Since leaving Marbella, we've kept in touch on a regular basis, and I've just learned so much from Sebastian, and some great value, and become very good friends with him. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Sebastian. So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. If I can just pull this down, and then I'm going to unmute you, Sebastian.
I can unmute myself. You muted yourself now, Barry. You muted yourself. Okay, good.
I know I did. So, Sebastian, thank you very much for joining us, mate. It's an absolute pleasure. Just before you start, if you could just let everybody know, where you're from and your background and your history into Bitcoin, why you got involved in Bitcoin, where do you see Bitcoin in the future? And for those people that's interested in getting involved in Bitcoin, what's in your experience and your expertise is the best way that people can actually get involved in Bitcoin? So over to you then, Sebastian.
Thank you very much. Well, I can start a little bit with myself. I'm 33. I'm from Denmark. I'm divorced and I have 2 kids. So before I went into the Bitcoin, I was owning a restaurant, or probably the restaurant was probably more owning me in the end. So I can say it this way. I had like a dream. I wanted to be self-employed, and then I opened up a restaurant. I've been working in the restaurant business for many years before that, so I had quite some knowledge about it. But anyway, when you get 2 kids, you're owning a restaurant. It's not really. It wasn't the life I was dreaming about. It was more like a romantic dream, owning a restaurant. I had like an idea of how it was to be self-employed. It was damn hard. Oh my God, that was hard. So about 4.5 years, I think it's like 4.5 years ago, I had like an idea how to minimize percentage when you were day trading stock. So I went to one of my friends, which is a programmer. I spoke with him about it. He told me it's super expensive to make it, but it's not impossible to make it. So I was actually looking for some investors into that. Took contact to one of my friends called Victor, and I was very fortunate that I met two young guys, Max and Navid, in Sweden, and they wanted to tell me about those magical internet money. So I was a little bit, the first time I heard it, I didn't really believe in it. I think it was back in 2013 I heard first time really about Bitcoin. I had a friend who said to me, oh, let's invest into it and see what it can bring. And I was like, I'm not a person that has ever been into gaming or anything like that. So I didn't really believe in it. So when my friend Victor told me they were into cryptocurrencies, I was like, oh, it's those magical internet money one more time. But let's see what it can bring. And I brought my dad with me, which is probably the most critical person I know, because he's a public accountant in Denmark, and has been into PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, and so on. So I brought him with me up to Sweden, and had a quite long talk with Max and Navid about cryptocurrencies, what it is, what it can do. And when we left that meeting, I think we were sitting there for like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. But when we left the meeting, it was like my dad, he was speechless about it. And my dad, he's never speechless. So I told him, so what is your opinion on it? And he was like, well, you got two options in this. Either you're going to work your ass off for the next 50 years on a restaurant and then you'll die. Or you go into crypto and maybe you can actually create yourself a life like they were living at that time. That was like a dream for me, especially when you're having the second kid on its way. So I went a little bit into crypto at that time. I still had my restaurant, but I would say this way, I hated my restaurant after seeing their life. So yeah, that was when I decided to sell my restaurant, and then I went all into crypto, and that's about 3.5 years ago, I think. So I went all in at that time, and I did all the don'ts in the crypto space and all the do's, of course, as well. So when Max and Navid and we decided to create the crypto group 2 years ago, with that in mind, that it was super difficult if you're new into crypto. It's super difficult just to figure out how to buy a Bitcoin, how to create an e-wallet, and even how to secure your money that way around, so you're actually holding your own private keys. That was when the crypto crew actually was created back. Yeah, that's a little bit over 2 years now. So that was my way into crypto, and I have been mining Bitcoins now for the last little over 2 years, and I have definitely never, how to say it, I've never regret what I went into it. Of course, it's a real business, so it goes up and it goes down with Bitcoin, and especially when we don't see more people there's inside Bitcoin right now. It's very, very volatile. But at the same time, when it's very volatile and when it's very new, as the Bitcoin is, that's also the period where you can really lucrate a big amount of Bitcoins on it, or big amount of money on it. So I would say we probably have like maximum 5 years to lucrate as much as possible. But I would say I believe that we will see Bitcoin go mainstream within the next 5 years. And as you have been talking about, Barry, we have seen the Bitcoin actually move faster than we thought it would, especially with institutional money coming into it now. We see some of the biggest institutions going into it, which nobody would believe just 2 years ago. For example, we see Nasdaq go into it. This year we see Fidelity, one of the biggest investment companies, going into it. And I mean, we see more and more going into it. You can buy software from Microsoft. You can buy computers from Dell. You can buy on, there's so many places you can do it already now. So just 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I think we began to really have Bitcoins on a Visa card or MasterCard. So a lot of people don't know how usable the Bitcoin is already now. So we can go to a supermarket, buy our milk, and go out again, and we have actually bought it for Bitcoins just by using this card, as we normally do with the fiat currency as we has today. So as I normally say to people, say, yeah, but it's good with the Bitcoin, it goes up in value, but can I really use it? Yeah, you can use the Bitcoin even more than you can use the Danish kroners, euros, US dollars, yeah, so forth. You can use the Bitcoin to way many more things than just normal currencies. Because, for example, if we go around in Europe, I go to Sweden, then I need to have Swedish kroners. If I go to Norway, Norwegian kroners, and so on. So yeah, we do have the euro in many countries now, but not all countries has the euro yet. And wasn't really, a lot of Danish people didn't want to have the euro in Denmark, for example. So when we look at the Bitcoin again, we can see that the Bitcoin we see it as an asset that's growing in value. But as you mentioned, it's almost 2 billion people in the world that's unbanked, and we are talking about the adult population. We're not talking about the old people that really will never look at the Bitcoin, or the young people which don't even have access to a bank right now. But the young people we have today will definitely begin to use the Bitcoin more than we even do, because it will just be a part of their life. Like if I give my kids on 2 years old an iPad, she know exactly how to use it. And I have never taught her to use it. It's just something, it gets really fast into their mind how to use things. So yeah, and Barry, you promised me, because my computer doesn't work with a camera, so Barry's gonna be my hand. If you can share a screen and we can go to blockchain.com, because I just want to show people a website where everything is super transparent with the Bitcoin. We know that the Bitcoin has an open ledger, so if you know how to read the Bitcoin ledger, you can find all transactions in there. So when people are saying this is only for criminals, they got it really, really, really wrong, because if this was for criminals, I wouldn't use it anyway, but let me say it this way: if this was for criminals, criminals don't want to show what they're using their money on or who they're sending their money to. So the Bitcoin transactions, we can follow it everywhere on the blockchain. We can see how many transactions we have every day. We can see which wallets it's going into. We can even see how many Bitcoins there's inside a wallet. So if I, for example, send to Barry now, and I know his wallet ID, then I can actually go into that transaction and I can figure out how many Bitcoins Barry actually has inside his wallet. And that's really, really transparency. It's not with our name, but if I know his numbers, then I know exactly how many Bitcoin he has in that wallet. So you can go to up on the top. We have data, and then you go to charts. If you go just a little bit down, and because you actually stop, there's like different ways you can go into Bitcoin. You can either buy a Bitcoin and hold that Bitcoin. That will never generate you even more Bitcoin. So let's say you buy a Bitcoin at $8,000, as it is approximately today, and you hold it, and let's say it makes 10x again. So we end at $80,000. Well, the thing is, will you sell your Bitcoin at $80,000? Probably you will, or even you will sell just a fraction of your Bitcoin. Let's say half of it. Then you'll just have half a Bitcoin for the next time it will go up. And if it go past $80,000 up to 90, 100, or even $200,000, you'll probably never buy into the Bitcoin one more time, except if you really need to hold the Bitcoin again. So we need to know how our mind works at the same time. I always recommend people, if you can do both mining and you can do buying Bitcoins, I would definitely recommend that when the price is what it is right now. But if we go to $80,000, or if we just were at $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 now, I would not recommend people to buy the Bitcoin right now, because we don't know if we will have a fall again. And if you are buying a Bitcoin at that price, have in mind that you will hold that Bitcoins for at a minimum period of 3 to 5 years. And I always recommend people, if you go into cryptocurrencies, you need to hold your coins for a minimum period of 3 to 5 years, because then you will have a quite decent value increase on it. Because as Barry told you, it's under 1% of the world population right now that's using the Bitcoin. So if we look at going into mining of Bitcoins, which is what me and Barry Joby is doing as well, then we need to look at, okay, why should I go into mining of Bitcoins right now? So we have a minus revenue in here. Can you find that? It should be a little bit longer down. There, right there, out on the right. You have mining revenue. Yes, please. Take that one. So everybody can go. So if you can take it on all time in the bottom, you got all time right there. Yes, please. So mining Bitcoins is the infrastructure of the Bitcoin. If there is no mining of Bitcoins, there will not be generated new Bitcoins, but at the same time, we could not make the transactions with the Bitcoin if there was no miners. So we know that the miners is making revenue on the newly generated Bitcoins. And as Barry also said, it goes down every approximately 4 years. It will have how many new Bitcoins that will come out. So a lot of people is asking me, so Sebastian, why should I go in to buy mining when we see it have 12.5 Bitcoin right now, but we know May next year it will go down to 6.25 newly generated Bitcoins per block. If you do understand the value of transaction fees or just fees, then you will definitely know the value of being a part of mining Bitcoins. Because we earn the newly generated Bitcoins, but we also earn the transaction fees that's inside the block. So you can see here, Barry showed you, we had those spikes on the other chart where we had 10x back in 2013, then we had a 10x in 17 as well. This graph actually looks a little bit like it. So if you look at back in 2013, 14, we can see the little spike here as well. And that's because the price of the Bitcoin was rising and media were talking about the Bitcoin and people actually getting engaged into the Bitcoin. But most of the time when media begin to talk about the Bitcoin and tell you how much value increase it has been doing, then it's already been doing it for quite some time. So when people begin to see that, they buy into the Bitcoin, let's say at $800-900, it will begin to raise up to $1,000-1,100, and they will be in a, I don't know, euphoria, because they can see their money grow like that, and they keep on holding their Bitcoins, and then suddenly it will go down again. And we know it's like a market cycle. Everything has like a market cycle. It doesn't matter if we're talking about house prices. Just see the house prices goes up and then it goes down, up and down and up and down. But all the time it increased a little bit from the last time. That's the same thing we see with the Bitcoin now. It's just way, way, way higher than houses and stocks and so forth, because the Bitcoin technology and the blockchain technology is so new. It's only 10 years old, and we have to remember how far was the internet when it was only 10 years old. So why should you go into just thinking about mining Bitcoins? If we look at, and you go a little bit forth on this one, we can see back in 2017, it spiked even higher than it did back in 13. That was because we saw the Bitcoin price rise one more time, but at the same time, we also saw that the amount of transactions that was made with the Bitcoin and on the blockchain was increasing really, really, really fast. At this point, when this one is peaking, you can actually also go in and find a graph on that one. But when it's peaking, we know we had around 500,000 transactions a day on the blockchain, Bitcoin's blockchain. So if we go down here, you can see it went down because of the price went down. The amount of transactions went down as well. So back in 18, we only had around 200,000 transactions every day instead of 500. And of course, the reason is that a lot of people is holding their Bitcoin because they know it will go down. They will hold their Bitcoin and not sell it. Of course, there will be people who is not really experienced with the Bitcoin, and they will start to panic sell their Bitcoins because now the media is saying, oh, it went up and now it's going to crash and the Bitcoin will die. And they probably bought it at, let's say, $16,000, $15,000, $16,000, $17,000. I know a lot of people doing that. And then it went up to 20 and they got greedy because it can only go one way now and it's up. So they hold their Bitcoin until it begin to go down again. And at that time, people are holding it so tight because they still believe the Bitcoin will go up. But as soon as it go past when they bought on the buying price, they get scared. And they get even more scared when the media is talking shit about the Bitcoin. And always have a little bit of critic when people is putting up experts about the Bitcoin, especially when it's mainstream media, because normally it's a guy that is like maybe into the stock market or something like that. And you cannot really compare the Bitcoin with, you cannot compare the Bitcoin with the stock market, in my opinion, because this one goes way faster. And just when you get into Bitcoin, you will definitely begin to understand. But if we go down here, and now we can see we hit rock bottom in the end of 18, beginning of 19, just see how the graph is beginning to go now on miners revenue. So the miners that is mining the Bitcoin is always making the most amount of Bitcoin when the price is going up. And when the price is going down, it's terrible for even holding a Bitcoin or mining the Bitcoins. But if you look at the Bitcoin in a longer perspective than just 1 year, it's not that terrible. It's actually quite amazing that it will go up and it will go down. And we can see for every time it goes up and every time it goes down, all people is always looking at what was the year all-time high. But in my opinion, you should look at the year's all-time low instead. Because if you look at the all-time low, year for year for year, you'll see that the Bitcoin price increases year for year for year at looking at that. So if we just go back in 2017 when the Bitcoin price was $20,000, the lowest price we saw at that time, that was a little under $1,000. Then it went up to 20, and then it went down in 2018. But the lowest price we saw in 18 was $3,200. $3,200. That means we had still 300% on the Bitcoin on the lowest price compared to the year before. And the same now, the lowest price we've seen in this year was also approximately $3,200, I believe. And now we will begin to see the price increase one more time. In my opinion, I don't think we will see the Bitcoin go under 6,000 again. Maybe we'll see it fall a little bit down. But in my opinion, and if we look at a historical aspect of the Bitcoin, approximately a year before the halving of the Bitcoin, so we go from 12.5 to 6.25. We saw it last time back in 2016. Then it will begin to climb up to the last all-time high. So in my opinion, I think we will climb slowly up to $20,000 and be around $20,000 in May 2020. And listen, you don't have to listen to me. You can look everything up and you can make your own opinion on it. This is only my opinion on the Bitcoin. But I believe we will climb slowly up to the $20,000. Then we will have the price of $20,000 in May 2020. And then I believe we will see an explosion on it. Let's say we hit, let's just be conservative and say we hit like $50,000. Then it's just 2x on the Bitcoin from May 2020 and upwards. but I'm not a expert in that. So if you look at the experts, they're talking about 100, 150, even $218,000, and it actually makes sense when they are making the calculations for you. But let's go back again, and then we can go into the hash rate distribution, so we can actually see. So Barry also said he has been into quite some different, can we call it scams, Barry? We can definitely call it scams. So if you haven't been...
Absolutely, 100%, yes, scams.
Yeah, scams. So a lot of, when there's a lot of money in crypto, there will also be a lot of scams, and definitely even more scammers. So you don't have to believe a story, especially not with the Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin, you can look everything up. So this is called hash rate distribution. That means that you can follow the different kind of mining pools there's inside this mining Bitcoins right now. So we can see the biggest pool right now is called BTC.com. It also changes. Back in 17, I believe it was Ant Pool, but it also changes a lot because sometimes equipment goes down, and yeah, there's a lot of different aspects in it. But BTC.com is one of the biggest mining pools, is the biggest mining pool right now. Then we have Ant Pool, we got Unknown Pool, we got Slush Pool, F2 Pool, and then we actually also got BitClub, which is just up here. And we can see we have been taking 2.1% of the 1,800 newly generated Bitcoins. You can see you got 24 hours, 48 hours, and 4 days up over this graph. Can you push 24 hours for me, please? Yes, thank you. So we can see the last 24 hours, we have been taking 1.8% of the 1,800 newly generated Bitcoins. So if people is telling you, well, we are mining Bitcoins, and they even call it cloud mining. If they call it cloud mining and can show you which pool they are mining in on this graph, you should definitely take your money and run away. And if people is saying to you, oh, we can give you 1% a day or something like that through mining, it's sorry to say, it's bullshit. Because if they're saying that, you cannot foresee mining, you cannot foresee how many Bitcoins you're going to mine. But you can look on how many Bitcoin has been mined over a certain period of time instead. So if we go down, and you can scroll a little bit down here, and you can find BitClub Pool. Click into that. You can see we have only taken 3 blocks, so we haven't been that lucky the last 24 hours. You take and click on the recent found block, the first one on the top. Yeah, thank you. So this site I'm showing you here, blockchain.com, everybody can go into this site, everybody can look the information up we're talking about, and you can also go in and find all the blocks we have been found over the last almost 5 years we have been mining in BitClub network now. But this one is just block number 579,404. So we have not even been generating 600,000 blocks yet over the last 10 years on Bitcoin's blockchain. But we can also see, if you look here, you got transaction fees. That's 0.45 Bitcoins. And in the bottom, you can find the block reward. That's 12.5. So inside this block, we had 12.95 Bitcoins. And when we have been mined that, it goes into our mining pool and we share the coins. Of course, if Barry is having for, let's say, $100,000 in mining and I only got for $10,000, well, then Barry will get 10x of the amount of the Bitcoin I'm getting. That's how it will be shared. But everything that's being mined within BitClub network is being shared. And why am I saying everything is being shared? Because you can also go into one of the other mining pools we just showed you. Then you can find out to buy your own equipment. You need to find a programmer, and you need to plug in your equipment into this mining pool, and even find really cheap electricity at that time. So it's not just a computer, plug it into a stick, and I don't know, it's not simple like that. It's very difficult to do it. So when I started, I thought 2 years ago it was too late for me to get into mining Bitcoins. But when I saw what BitClub was doing, then I got really interested in it. And when you know that it's so transparent as this, then they cannot even cheat with how many Bitcoins they have been mined. So if you take the last transaction on this one and just click on the top blue here, yeah. Now we are actually going into BitClub Network's own e-wallet, so we can actually see how many Bitcoins we have been mined over the last almost 5 years now. So we can see total received is 89,000 Bitcoins we have been mined and shared out with the people inside the mining pool. But at the same time, this mining pool, if people don't believe in, if it's a scam, or if they're running away with all the Bitcoins or anything like that, they're at the same time showing us how many Bitcoins they are holding right now to pay electricity, to buy new equipment, and everything else. So I cannot even tell you a company showing me their bank account with if they own stocks or anything like that. So this is really transparent. And even if you go over to the side and you got filter here, over to the side where you can see all the transactions, yeah, then you can click on that one. Then you can see all transactions. You can see send transactions, received, confirmed. You can follow everything that's happening inside BitClub, all the blocks we have been found. You can even go back to the first block we found. You don't need to do that, Barry. That will take a long time. But you can do that if you go all the way down to the bottom of this side and go next. Then you will come back to the first block we found, almost 5 years ago when we start mining Bitcoins with BitClub Network. So this is super transparent, and that's why I just love BitClub, and that's why I wanna mine with BitClub. So in my opinion, if I should give a good advice right now, if you should buy and hold Bitcoins or if you should mine Bitcoins, if you can do both, you should definitely do both. If you can only do one thing, you should definitely go into mining. And why am I saying mining? Because if you go and you believe, if you go into mining, you need to believe that the Bitcoin will be here in 5 to 10 years. I don't expect anybody on this call don't think that, but if you don't go into mining. But if you go into mining, there will be a big difference on holding 1 Bitcoin in 5 years or just 1.5 or 2 Bitcoins in 5 years. Because let's say the price will hit what Tim Draper is saying, $250,000 within the next 3 years. That's quite a big difference in holding 1 Bitcoin, 2 Bitcoins, or 3 Bitcoins. So that's why I always recommend people to do both if you can do that when the price is so low now. If you can only do one thing, you should definitely go into mining, because you will not only hold a fraction or 1 Bitcoin, you'll keep on generate fractions of a Bitcoin into your e-wallet, and at that time you'll not have a personal, I don't know how to say personal, I should almost call it a marriage with your Bitcoin, but you will have that if you just hold Bitcoins and are not generating more Bitcoins. Because yeah, as I tell people, if you put the Bitcoin into your vein, you'll definitely have more Bitcoins than just one, in my opinion. But yeah, that's how transparent BitClub Network and the mining is. So that's why I am a part of this. And of course, it's totally up to people to make their own due diligence and their own research on it. And I definitely think everyone should do that. So yeah, I think that's it, Barry. It's very simple to go in. And this is just some of the charts, of course. I can go deeper into charts, but I don't want to put too many things inside a head the first time I speak with them. Yeah.
Wow, absolutely brilliant there. I'll just stop there. Sebastian, absolutely superb information. And, you know, I strongly encourage everybody. I'm getting a bit cautious of time now, so we're going to be quickly wrapping up very soon. But, you know, please, watch the replay will be available in the morning sometime. Watch that replay, fully understand it. You know, and for those people that, you know, are still a little bit, you know, unsure or can't understand it, because it does take time. You need to look at it, watch the replay, watch it again. Go back to the person who's invited you to the call. Go through it with them. You know, if you still don't get it, reach out to Sebastian, myself, Joby, anybody who else is on the call. We all here together. We're all part of this big team to help people get involved with the Bitcoin. So, Sebastian, thank you very much. We're going to quickly wrap up, because I just want to do one quick thing and bring on a quick testimonial, because I don't want to keep people much longer. But thank you very much, Sebastian, and I look forward to speaking to you very soon.
Definitely. Thank you for listening to me.
Awesome.
And now, I was close to saying it, because I have a little bit of a accent myself, but I can hear you got that too, Barry. I know you got it.
Thanks, Piers. Right, just to wrap up the guys, because I do appreciate your time, and I do appreciate you coming on the call. I just want to, we're going to do a couple of testimonials, but I think we just got time for one. So what I want to do now is just bring on my mentor, because I feel it's important for me to invite my mentor, but not only my mentor, again, a very good friend of mine. And Joby's actually coming to my house this weekend, and we're going to be going around the northeast of the UK where I live and educating people. I've got some awesome people that want to get involved and want to learn and understand more about Bitcoin. So Joby's kindly given his time up for a whole weekend. You know, and again, guys, it's voluntary. He ain't getting paid for this. He's come up to, you know, educate people in my part of the world, and I've got to be so grateful for that. So if I could just invite Joby onto the call. Joby, we haven't got very long, mate. If you could just...
No, it's all good.
Quickly introduce yourself, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me your story, why you got involved, and, you know, why people should get involved, and just, you know, how powerful is Bitcoin?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, thank you for great presentations as well. And Sebastian, I love listening to you all the time. Absolutely killed it. Very good. Thank you so much for doing that. So for me, guys, I've been involved nearly 7 years. And when you look at this, it's the first time ever that we have an opportunity to be involved with a system where we can actually collect the fees in the monetary economy and outside of the banking and financial system. So this is big. It's kind of a big deal. Bitcoin is bigger than you know and better than you think. I promise you, it is absolutely something you need to research. It's something you need to do. You've had great information from Barry and Sebastian tonight, and I promise you, go and watch this again. The more you hear it, the easier it gets. But the main thing I want to touch on now is, how do you make money? Okay, what you really want to understand, you just have there, you've got two ways of getting on board with this. Number one, come on board, buy a mining share and accumulate Bitcoins in a very safe and secure environment for a long term. Number two, you can share this and build a business, as what Sebastian and Barry and I are doing, and we can help others accumulate Bitcoin from sharing the process. It's that simple. Get paid in Bitcoin for sharing it, get paid in Bitcoin for mining it. Very, very simple, all right? So do whatever you can to accumulate Bitcoin, because we will never see this again, and just do what is right for you. All right? So guys, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on, and I wish I could spend longer. I could talk for hours.
Joby, thanks.
I know you're literally over an hour now, and we'll get told off otherwise.
Yeah, we'll be getting wrong off Max. We'll just not send him the recording.
It's all good. Fantastic presentation, guys. Well done.
Guys, thanks very much for everybody who's participated. If everybody just wants to know, to unmute yourselves and say ta-ra to everybody, I'll end the call in about 30 seconds. So if you just want to unmute yourself, say ta-ra.
Ta-ra.
Give everybody a wave.
Ta-ra.
Thanks very much.
Yo.
Thank you.
See you soon, guys. Have a good evening.
Bye.
No, it's Julian and Kelly must have disappeared.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Brilliant stuff. I'll end the call now. Good night, guys. God bless.
Good night.